Hi guys, it's Sherry. Today we are going to be making a really adorable necklace using this little teacup and cup set. Or teapot and cup set, I should say. I talked to Debbie from Aussie Craft Cutters and asked her if she could create me a little teapot with a cup and then something with the English background. So she designed this beautiful paper for me and then these adorable little teapots and cups. So I'm super excited about this. I think she did a fabulous job. To start off, you're going to want to take your clay. You have to roll this out to the second thickest setting on your pasta machine. And then lay your paper print side down. And then just rub that on there and let it set for a couple minutes. You want your paper to set there and really allow that clay to absorb the ink to start. All right, so I let this sit for a couple minutes. The next thing I want to do is grab my water, and I'm going to start spraying my water down right onto the paper. I'm going to let this water sit on my paper for about a minute to really absorb right into that paper. And you can start seeing it right away that it's turning almost like a mushy toilet paper. That's what it really reminds me of, or like a cotton or something. If you kind of like go like that, you'll start seeing like little bits of paper. See? That's the water dissolving the paper, and that's what you want. You want it to just kind of sit there for about a minute and let it really absorb into that. All right, so it's been about a minute, so I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to make sure I have one that's nice and clean. And then I'm just going to kind of put it on an angle and start pulling off all that extra paper. You see all that paper? Now when you're doing that, please do not dig into your clay. You will cut your clay, but look at all that paper. And then what I like to do is spray it down one more time. And then lightly go over it with my fingers. And I am not pressing on this hard. I'm just lightly rubbing till I get most of that paper off. And you'll feel the difference between the clay and the paper. If you rub too much, you run the chance of rubbing the ink off. So do not overdo it, guys. Just lightly go over. You'll feel the difference. If you have a little paper left on there after you bake it, you can scrub it off. I prefer not to do that. I prefer to get most of it off before, and that's why I run my finger over it. But look at all that extra paper. Can you see all that? And you can feel, I can feel right here, I got a little bit. Look how gorgeous that is. Is that not the most beautiful blue? Gosh, that is gorgeous. Okay, so now I'm going to take my wipey and just get rid of all that extra paper. And then lightly just go right over the top. And then let that completely dry. This is the longest process right here, is just doing the paper. You just want to let it dry. And then we could go on to the next step. All right, guys, so I let my piece sit for a few minutes. Next, I want to just grab a little bit of baby powder. And this is going to help not only keep your paper from being sticky, but it's also going to help keep your cutters from getting stuck in there. You need to come up with a better thing here for my baby powder. You need need a better container. All right, so just go over your piece with some baby powder. It just makes it so much easier to work with when you have the baby powder on there, because sometimes your paper will get sticky and it just makes it harder to work with. And it also helps keep your cutter from sticking in the clay as much, because they're detailed cutters, or stamps I should say. Like these are the little stamps. So they do have a habit of sticking into pieces. So by having the baby powder on, it'll prevent it. So now I'm just going to cut out certain areas. I want to kind of get an idea of what exactly I want to get in each piece. So press that in and then pop it up. All right, so then I'll take my cutter and I'll cut my teapots out. I really should have put this face in closer to me. I gotta tell you, I think Debbie did such a beautiful job on these. I am so excited about how beautiful these are. All right, I am gonna lift this up because I really want this closer to me. Oh, look how gorgeous these are, guys. Gosh, these are beautiful. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. That paper really makes this piece perfect. All right, so I got all my pieces cut out. Now I'm not going to be working with every single one of these today. I'm just going to show you so many pieces and make my one necklace that I want to make. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love this paper with this little tea set. I mean, how beautiful. I have a dining room set that is very similar to this. I love the old English style, and I just think this is going to be so gorgeous with my little dining room set. Even though it's going to be on my neck, I think it's going to look beautiful. So all my pieces are smoothed out. It doesn't take much to smooth these. The cutters are nice and sharp, which I love. All right, guys, so what I did was I took my scrap and I ended up rolling it out and blending it all together. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to place everything. Let me place everything right onto my sheet here. And then this will become the back of my my piece. So I'm just going to press it right onto my piece, and then I will cut out. I'm going to line it all up. Make sure it's lined up nice. I really want everything to stay flat down. That way I have a nice flat back, because when you lift pieces up and down, that's when you kind of get those little marks in the back of your clay, like air pockets. And it seems like these little guys want to just come up. All right, so I'm going to cut all these pieces out, and then I'm going to throw this in my oven at the recommended time and temperature, and then we will return. All right, so one thing that I forgot to say before is that we want to put some holes in some of these, because this is such a tiny little area. We want to make sure our holes are in beforehand. So I know that I'm going to want a hole at my little tip here, and putting them in beforehand is really necessary when it comes to something like this, because if you're drilling, you run the risk of putting a hole in your piece. And then I want one at the handle. And same thing with my teapot. I want one at my handle and then one at the tip. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. So let's do, and some of them I'm going to leave alone because I want other projects for these. So I am going to do one face in this direction. And the opposite cup. All right, so you got one on each end, okay? And now you can bake your piece. You have it all ready. If you want to do a bunch at one time, put all your holes in now. I'm uncertain on exactly what I'm going to do with all of these, but these ones, I already have my necklace idea, so that's what I am going to work with. I also want to make a pair of earrings, so let's put one right at the top of the teapot, because that'll be super cute to do it by the top. And then let's do one, do we want to do it at the top of the teacup or by the handle? Let's do the top of the teacup. Since we're doing two necklaces, let's do, let's do top of the teapot here. And then that will be the cup. That'll be the cup. And then let's do a handle. We'll do one on the handle and one on the top. And then we have this set left. So we'll leave all that go, and then we'll return after everything's baked. All right, guys, so all my pieces are out of the oven. I've kind of prepped everything ahead of time, minus one piece to show you each step. So once everything is out of the oven and is cooled off, you're going to get your chrome marker. And you are going to edge your piece. You don't want to get the sides like the back piece. You just want the sides. So normally, like, I'll edge my front and back kind of like that. We are not going to do that on the back this time. We just want the front. We want to keep the backs nice and clean. And this takes a little bit to dry. So I'm going to do this part first. Then I'll let everything dry, and then we're going to glaze everything. So just carefully go right around. I mean, look how gorgeous that shine is. I love this. And you can see I'm just going to edge the very top part to kind of give it like it's an actual teacup. And I did the same thing with my teapot. If you get anything on the back, you could take rubbing alcohol and just carefully with a Q-tip go over that and clean it off. So you see my back is nice and clean. I'm going to let that sit down and completely dry before I do anything else. You do not want that smearing all over your beautiful print. I mean, how gorgeous is that print? You really honestly couldn't ask for a better result from these pieces. I love these pieces. So let me let this dry, and then we're going to gloss everything. My piece is dry. The next thing I want to do is get my glaze. This is a gloss glaze, and I like to let this one dry for honestly overnight. So a lot of times I do my things at nighttime. This particular one takes a little bit longer to fully dry. So if you're using your Sculpey gloss glaze, you don't have to wait that long. I'm just going to go right over my edges very carefully. All I do is tap them because I don't want it going onto the back. So I just very carefully just put a little bit right on the sides. And then I'll take it and just put it right over. Let me grab my little pin. All right, so now I'll let this dry. And honestly, I'm gonna let it, if it wasn't overnight, I'd let it dry for about 2-3 hours and then I would be fine. But I also put it on fairly thick, so that might be why it takes so long. So let that dry and then we will assemble everything. Cut your chain. I have a 7.5-inch chain and a 9-inch chain, and then get a couple jump rings. You don't need that many. And then we will assemble everything. All right, guys, so it's the next day. My pieces are obviously completely dry. Now, the next thing we want to do is just put our pieces together. So we want to get the short one for the teapot area, and the cup is going to take the long chain. And we are going to start attaching everything. Oh, I went a round one for in the middle because it actually works a little bit nicer than my oval ones. So I am actually going to attach my teapot and my cup together first. And then close those up. Make sure everything is lined up real nice because we want a nice flow here. So we want it to move really nice and easy. Then we're going to get our oval jump rings. And you don't have to use the oval jump rings. This is just something that I want to do. And then I'm going to attach the bottom of my chain to that. Make sure everything's closed nice and tight. Do the same thing. And this is why I want it one short and one longer. So this way, when you attach everything together, your necklace, let me show you, hold on. Let me attach all my pieces together. That's way too. I need this about right there. And then I like to add a big one on this side for the simple fact that it's just much easier than looking for a small jump ring to connect it to. So that's just my preference. I think it's much easier. And then let me attach it. And now you'll see when you lay it down on your neck, it'll look like the teapot is going into the teacup. So how adorable is that? I love these. I think these are fabulous. So you'll see I did this one as well, the same way. Oops. So that one. And then we have that one. And then we have our little teacup and teapot earrings. I did 2 sets of those. And then I decided to do the little 2 teapots as a pair of earrings as well. So I really hope that you guys enjoy creating these pieces with me. If you did, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I absolutely love these. I think they're adorable. I love this paper and the little teapot set. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. And I will see you all next time. Bye.